All right, guys, welcome back to another Real Talk episode. Today, we're going to be talking about good glass because you eat ass. Just kidding, but in all seriousness, glass dictates your setup way more, or your capabilities of your rifle way more than your barrel length or your caliber does. And I have a little bit of experience to kind of talk about today and why I bring up this topic, because I just had this happen to me literally just yesterday. So with that being said, guys, before we get into good glass, what I think is good glass, kind of in my experience and why I'm bringing this whole topic up, I first want to thank the biggest sponsor of the channel, which is Brownells. So big shout out to brownells.com. If you guys want to support the channel, you can head on over there to brownells.com using the link in the description and use bro code RDB10. That saves you guys 10% off over at Brownells, as well as supports the channel. Again, if they're running a better discount code than mine, which my code only works on orders of $150 or more, and certain items do not apply. But whatever you do, even if you don't use a discount code or mine doesn't work for some reason or use theirs, if you use the link in the description, it still qualifies and supports the channel. So thank you guys for doing that. There's also the super thanks, which is just like Patreon, but right here on YouTube. It's right below the video. That goes directly towards my YouTube piggy bank, which is much appreciated. And then lastly, liking, commenting, or subscribing is a great free way to support the channel. It's just, again, if you're just talking shit in the comment section, guys, every single comment helps. So big shout out to all you guys who decide to drop me a comment and a like, and just check your subscription as well. All right, so with that being said, guys, let's just go right at it. So what do I mean by that? So yesterday I was out there doing some accuracy testing on the URGI at home that you see right here versus the Geisley Super Duty upper that you see right here. And we had a recent Real Talk that went over both of these. Now, full disclosure, before any of you ask me, I did not actually shoot my Flow 762 Ti on this upper. I shot it with the Flow 556K because my buddy whose property we were at, who has the range, actually had a 556K, and I decided to run it with that versus this big boy. So I've yet to shoot it with this guy. But with that being said, this Super Duty upper over here actually shot much better and grouped much better, albeit all things considered, it was me shooting. I was proned out with bipod, but I had the same conditions for both uppers, and I actually had this 1 to 10 EOTech on this guy, on this Daniel Defense barreled URGI at home, and I had the EOTech with a G45 magnifier with the 5X magnifier on the Super Duty upper. And when I shot groups with both of these, I was able to actually achieve a sub MOA group at 100 yards with the Super Duty upper, but I was not able to achieve it at 100 yards with the Daniel Defense barrel that was chopped down by D. Wilson. So that's not the point of the video. The point of the video is this was actually grouped better at 100 yards. This proved to be more accurate, at least with the ammo types I was shooting. Again, all things considered equal, me as the shooter, that Super Duty was more accurate. However, I attempted to take both of these out to 550 yards, and it was just nowhere near possible. Okay, nowhere near possible. It was like a gamble. It was like I was holding off into space with this EOTech. It's an EXPS 3-1, so it's a single dot reticle. Even with the 5X magnifier behind it, without the drops and the Christmas tree style reticle of the EOTech Voodoo, I was not able to achieve any hits on target at 550 yards with 20 rounds. Now, alternatively, I shot this thing first, which again had a wider group. So I was able to get sub MOA with a Super Duty. This guy was shooting about 1.5 to 2 inches at 100 yards with the same ammo. Again, same shooter, same day, same everything. So not really an argument here. This is less accurate as far as I'm shooting behind the gun. But with this better glass, with a 10x top end, and with the holds and the wind holds that this reticle offers and the LPVO really offers, I was able to get like 18 out of 20 hits. Like I missed maybe the first two, maybe 17 or something like that, but complete night and day difference in the ability of this weapons platform to now reach out to further distances. Now, once again, I know I've talked a lot of shit in the past about 11.5 supremacy, about 14.5 being the best do-it-all, about how 16-inch guns are underrated. But of recent days and weeks and months, right, I've been really loving the advantages of a shorter gun because you're going to run it suppressed, right? I mean, you're not buying an 11.5 and running it unsuppressed. That's pretty stupid. You're going to run it suppressed. So when you put the suppressor on there, it does inch out that length a little bit longer to like kind of the maximum allowable for easy use indoors, but it still gives you the ability to reach out to 550 yards. But it's not the barrel length, it's not the caliber, it's the optic choice. And that's the hill I'm going to die on today. So again, the topic of the video is good glass, eat ass. That's a Reddit thing, but it's very fitting because not only, okay, you can do most of what I'm talking about. You can reach out to 550 yards with a cheaper, primary arms, SLX line type 1 to 10, that's the second focal plane. You could absolutely do it. But the better the glass, the better you're going to be able to glass things out, the better you're going to be able to see things, especially in low light performance, so on and so forth. But let's get back to the original topic. So right now we are sitting right here with the EOTech Voodoo 1 to 10. This glass was given to me by Downrange Thermal, so EOTech has never sent me this. EOTech has never sent me anything. So I have no reason to say good things about it. And in fact, I'm not going to say all good things about it because it's a great optic for the price. But again, if I had to pay full price for this thing, which I don't know what the MSRP is, like 15 to 1600 bucks on this thing, I might urge you to just save up a little bit more, but we'll talk about that. I love the reticle that I have in here. Again, I forget exactly which one it is, but let's go back to the original topic at hand here, which is if this was a, okay, for instance, these two guns back here, okay? The HKMR762, the SCAR 17, both have 16-inch barrels. This one's a 16.5-inch technically. This one is not chrome lined, so it is a bit more accurate, I will say. A sub MOA gun at 100 yards, but I have some really nice glass on this gun. It is a Nightforce Attacker 4 to 20 with the Horus Tremor 3 reticle. So great Christmas tree reticle. I know some guys don't like Christmas tree reticles. If you're a hunter, if you want something simple, great. Or if you dial everything, great. The Christmas tree is really to get you quick, rapid follow-up engagements from 0 out to 500 or 600 yards, in my opinion. After that, I would really want to dial. But let's just take this gun, for instance, my DMR, my most accurate rifle that I've shot to 1,000 yards. And I put an EOTech, just a 1X or an aim point or insert Holosun, whatever red dot you want on there. And that gun becomes obsolete out past 200, 300 yards, right? Now, we're not talking about, suppressive fire or getting shots close, because even with this thing with the 5X magnifier, I was dancing all around the target, but I had 0 impacts. This guy, which is again, objectively less accurate barrel than the Geisley barrel, was getting like hit after hit after hit after hit at speed. I was just rapid fire shooting them off. So all other things considered equal, right? Same caliber, same barrel length. You can upgrade everything you want in this rifle, right? You got a great Geisley trigger in it. You got the highest quality 77 grain boat tail hollow point ammunition. Your eyes can only see as far as they could see, right? You're not going to be able to identify, number one, the target, but number two, get accurate shots at the distance. Because once you get past that 200 to 300 yard marker, you really need some type of drop and also wind hold, right? Especially on something like this where you're not dialing an EOTech, or you're not putting clicks into an aim point when you're taking shots at distance. So it's something, and I know there's options for that, like the TACOM HQ, which is kind of mind-blowingly expensive, which I don't know that much about it, so I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, and I'm not trying to talk shit on them. I think it's a great concept, but I was just kind of blown away with how expensive it was. And then also, as far as I understand, you kind of have to select one distance that adjustment goes. And for those of you who don't know what the TACOM HQ thing is like, it's pretty much it pretty much changes your image based off of like your ballistics, your bullet, your weight, your barrel length, all that stuff. And it's like a flip to side. So you flip it to center, and then it would just take whatever your 0 is on your EOTech at 100 yards or a 5,200 yard 0, whatever, and then it would just kind of move the image so that you don't have to do any kind of dialing or holding it to space. And now you would have, with that TACOM flipped over, you'd have like a 500 yard 0. So I think it's an amazing concept, but again, I've only done research into the pricing like one time, so do not quote me on this, but I think it was a couple $100 if I remember correctly, which was, I was just like, that plus the cost of the EOTech. Again, there's advantages to both, right? I would definitely rather have this if I'm running through a structure. It's just better. There's nothing going to be as fast as this, even the 1X on the EOTech that you see right here, or the 1X on my Nightforce Attacker 1 to 8 back here on the URGI 14.5, right? Nothing's going to be quite as good as a 1X dot. So there's advantages to both, right? But the more I go through it, and the more I shoot, and the more I realize, okay, if I wanted to create a do-it-all rifle, there's no such thing. But if I wanted one rifle to make it as versatile as possible, right? Make it a jack of all trades, a master of none, so to speak, then I would probably be going 11.5 with a 1 to 10 or a 1 to 8, something with quality glass. This is made in Japan. I believe the Nightforce is made in the US. I'm not exactly sure, but something with quality glass. And then I'd mount a 12 o'clock, either an aim point if you got that kind of dough, or like an RMR, more commonly like you see back here on my Attacker. Actually, let me just bring this thing up since we keep referencing it. But it's a 14.5. It's kind of the same concept as the 11.5, just a little bit shorter, obviously. And in this case, we have top-mounted RMR. And if I was running this primarily, you know, I would have my suppressor on here, but it's not on here. But just to give you guys another example, it's a longer barrel length, but as I mentioned in that 11.5 supremacy video, your bullet's going to drop the same distance, right, as your velocity decreases. So you go from 14.5 to 11.5, you're losing 3 inches there, okay? Can any of you guys afford to lose 3 inches, right? But you're getting the ability to have a more highly maneuverable platform indoors and whatnot, so it's a trade-off. But that bullet, if you have an accurized bullet, like the 2 tests I did were with IMI Razor Core 77 grain OTMs and then 77 grain AAC OTMs as well. Or sorry, I think the IMI was boat tail hollow point, same thing. But the OTMs, AAC OTMs with their precision bullets, not the Sierra bullets, and they both did pretty well. But the AAC ammo did better with the Super Duty, believe it or not, and also with the Daniel Defense barrel. So say what you want about AAC ammo. I've not been the biggest fan of Palmetto in the past and their customer service, but their ammo works. It just works, and it's good quality ammo, and it's really, really cheap. So I'm a fan of that, them bringing that to the masses. Now, with that being said, again, going back to if I wanted to make that the most versatile 11.5 possible, I'd probably be going with something like, if I had one rifle, it would definitely be the Attacker over the EOTech. I'm sorry, EOTech. It's just, this is just better quality. Now it is like double the price. So is it worth double the price? No, that's the law of diminishing returns, right? As price goes up, your returns kind of go down, right? So the more you pay, if you pay for double the price, you're not getting double the performance. You might be getting that much more performance, but that's the law of diminishing returns. Just Google it, guys, or ask ChatGPT. Now, again, kind of gone off in the weeds a little bit. You're not going to be able to identify. There's a lot of guys who talk about this already, right? Like Brass Facts, Hop. These guys talk about these concepts all the time in their videos, and there's just a lot of merit to it, right? Most engagements are going to happen on a battlefield between like really realistically like 50 to 75 yards out to 300 yards, or most, you know, kind of infantry level combat situations. So the 11.5 is going to be absolutely capable within those ranges. But again, going back out to the distance argument, I could have my HK back here with an EOTech, and it's useless out past 300 if I don't have some type of magnification. Even if I had the 5x magnifier, or let's just say they hypothetically created a 10x magnifier. You're not dialing that thing, right? So you're going to be holding off into space. When I was shooting that URG, or that Super Duty, I'm sorry, I always get them confused. When I was shooting that Super Duty out to 550 and I was getting no hits, I was getting close. I was dancing all around the target, left, right, high, low. It's because I was holding off into space. I was trying to use the reference point of a tree branch in a forest of trees as I'm shooting this target that is literally, here's the dot, and the target's like down here in the bottom of my window. So I'm holding up super high, probably like 7 or 8 target heights above the target. Now, granted, it was a pretty small target, and granted, this whole argument goes for precision work, right? We want to get cold bore first round impacts at 500, 600, 700 yards. You got to have the glass for that, right? We're not talking about a 2x2 steel plate, which I've definitely done my fair share of shooting at those types of plates at distance. So don't get me wrong, but this was a reduced C-zone target. So about 7 inches across by 14 inches tall. So pretty small. That's within the kill zone for a human, approximately, right? 14 inches, maybe a little, yeah, within the kill zone. If you're hitting that, you're going to take them out of the fight. That difference was the glass. The glass is the complete difference. And I would argue, I've had a lot of cheaper glass in my day. It'll get you there, but I've always gone by the rule of thumb that like your rifle is much more easily resold as long as the ATF doesn't kick your door in and accuse you of being an FFL for selling a rifle. It's much more easily flipped than it is to flip glass. You're never going to get your money out of glass, and lately the used gun market's pretty trash as well, so that's really not, they're not really the greatest investment anymore after COVID and after the used gun market got flooded with all the people who ran out and bought guns during COVID and came back and tried to trade them back in and sold them for pennies on the dollar. But I digress. You're still going to be able to resell a rifle better than you are a piece of glass, unless it's like a very highly sought after piece of glass that's hard to find or hard to get. You know, aim points hold their value, attackers hold their value for the most part, EOTechs hold their value, so on and so forth. But I recommend just saving up for a good piece of glass, or just budget for it, right? When you think about building a rifle out like this URGI right here, or any of the other Super Duties that we're talking about, don't just like and the budgeting at the cost of the rifle or the cost of a rifle and a light. Obviously, those things are important, but budget for the glass that you dream of. Like budget for your favorite glass, because that is going to determine how far you can reach out with this gun, flat out. So again, I've talked about before, that bullet is going to be dropping further because you have a shorter barrel, you have less velocity. It's going to be dropping further than the 14.5 or 16 or 24 inch, okay? But it's going to be dropping consistently, dropping into place. And the same, if the gun doesn't move, it's going to be dropping with, depending on the accuracy of the ammunition, which we found with the, again, AAC, about 1 inch at 100 yards. So at 500 yards, it's about 5 inches. So it's going to be dropping within that same 5-inch circle at 550 yards. And if you can put it there, that's the hardest part, and that's where the glass gets you. So I had another point I wanted to bring up, and now I'm kind of blanking on it. But, oh yeah, so we're going to be swapping out because the Super Duty upper was more accurate than the Daniel Defense upper. We're going to be swapping out the glass, putting the 1 to 10 Voodoo on this guy because, again, it proved more accurate. This has the Geisley profile barrel. It's kind of like a taper from the back. It's thicker and then gets thinner towards the front. Some would say it's more like a Ballistic Advantage Hansen barrel, but it's chrome lined still, cold hammer forged chrome lined barrel, so super, heavy use barrel. I know obviously the SOCOM barrel on this guy is an absolute beast. It's probably the thickest barrel in the market, I'm sure, besides like the H-bar barrel, which we have something coming up for that. But it's always great when your printer decides to start randomly cleaning itself in the middle of a video. But yeah, that glass is going to be going on here because, again, this barrel was slightly more accurate, and we were still able to achieve a lot of hits at distance with that Daniel Defense barrel. But again, for what its intended use is, it is a heavier profile barrel, so it's more for higher rates of fire, and it just suits the EOTech with the magnifier, kind of suits it a little bit better. So we're going to be swapping optics on here. And the last thing I'll need to complete this build is the Flow 556K or the Flow 556 Ti. Still trying to decide if I'm even going to go with either one. And I'm in talks with Huxworks about that, so hopefully we can make something happen because these cans are not cheap. But with that being said, guys, I think that's, ACOGs, that's what I was going to talk about. Prisms and things like that. Okay, by no means am I an expert. I usually do this disclaimer at the beginning of the video. I'm just some random guy on the internet, so take it with a grain of salt. And this printer is about to get unplugged in a second if it doesn't fucking quit. Busy, try later. Okay, yeah, let's get unplugged. Yeah, that's it. Anyways, ACOGs. Where were we before I had to fight Skynet over here? So how do I feel about ACOGs? Because I know someone's going to ask about prisms and this and that and the other. How do I feel about ACOGs? So I think ACOGs, obviously, completely bomb-proof. Been around for a long time, battle-tested, proven. But for the price, which they actually are a pretty decent value for the price. The glass is amazing. The field of view is amazing, especially on the TA34, 31. I forget which model it is. It has an amazing field of view, but the eye relief is like this far. So if you can get over that, if you get a good mount, this is the Unity fast mount. So I can, keep a decent length of pull on the rifle and just creep up a little bit. It's not too bad for you guys to see. There you go. I also have a offset hollis on there just for some 1x up close stuff. This type of setup isn't bad, but for the money I have in this type of setup, I could just get the 1 to 10 and then have way more capability. So the reticles in the EOTech, in the ACOG are a bit dated. They had for a minute a deal with Primary Arms where they had the ACSS reticle in here. Those came and went. I never got my hands on one, and I think that they're no longer made, and if you want to buy one, they're resold for a crazy price. But with that being said, I think that it kind of does a good job for 0 to 4, maybe 500 yards, but it's missing those wind holds, and you still are dealing with a similar situation, obviously much better than you would be with the EOTech, but a 55 grain bullet or 77 grain bullet is going to be getting bullied around. Once you get out that 500 yard marker, it's going to start getting bullied around by the wind, and I typically find myself holding at least to those 5-mile-an-hour wind holds on the attacker or the EOTech, and the ACOG just doesn't have them. So although you have amazing glass, great field of view, virtually indestructible, short eye relief, and the reticle options are just not there. And plus, it's a 4X, so it's again incredible glass. But even I'm a magnification snob. I'm a whore for high magnification. I love having a high magnification. The higher the better. Even if I don't want to shoot at a 25X, it's nice to have it so I can pump in, check out what's going on, pull back out if I want to see my splash, especially on an unknown distance target. You know, a lot of guys will pull out their magnification just to see where their splash is so they can have a second round impact. That's the point of those Christmas tree type reticles. You pull out a little bit. Let's say on this guy back here, my DMR, if I'm shooting at a 700-yard target, but I don't know it's 700 yards, I'm going to hold my guesstimation for where I need to hold, but I may not be on 20X. I may be on like 18 or 16X, so that when I pull the trigger, I can kind of get my optic back on target to where my hold was as best as I can, spot the splash in the tree, and then move the reticle to that new spot where that splash was to the target, so now I can make my adjustment and get a second round impact. That's the idea behind unknown target distances. And again, I'm not a wizard, I'm not some long range sniper, but this has been my experience. In the ACOG, for the money, it's a total vibe. Don't get me wrong, like this whole Block 2 setup is a total vibe. But yeah, for the money, I just think that there's better options today. You're definitely not like, I'm not telling you to go sell your ACOG. It's obsolete, nothing like that. Like, it's pretty cool. You can still mount the top mounted RMR on here if you wanted to. I preferred the offset on this model. If it was the battery operating model where the RMR would be forward, I'd probably do that for passive aiming with night vision. But this is on a 1.93 mount, this offset here. So you can actually, I don't know if you'll be able to tell, but it's actually pretty high up. So even with nods, I should be able to. I've actually never tried this with nods. So, but the reason I got 193 was so that maybe I could. We'll see. Time will determine. We got too many things in the pipeline for reviews for now, which is a good problem to have. But again, that's pretty much the whole topic, guys. Good glass, eat ass, and if you can afford it, get you a Nightforce. There's so many good brands. Like I don't have experience with all of them, but I like Trijicon in general. I like Nightforce. Like the Credo back here, the biggest issue I had with this Credo is that it doesn't have wind holds in previous models. Now they have a 1 to 10 Credo that does have wind holds. I have zero experience with it. Trijicon just was not willing to send one out. I don't know, maybe it's because I'm an objective reviewer and I'm going to say what I want to say about them. But Nightforce is kind of I'm a little spoiled by them. I paid for all my Nightforce. Actually, I didn't pay for my 1 to 8. Brownell sent me that, but big shout out to Brownells once again. Show those guys some love. But the 4 to 20 I paid for, and it was a pretty penny. But I just had to have it for my DMR. So that is my go to war long range gun. If I'm ever needing to, that's the gun I'm going to be taking if I'm trusted with that type of role by my squad. But with that being said, guys, that's pretty much the end of the video. Let me know what kind of glass you guys run. What do you trust your life to as far as glass goes? What has been your experience? I mean, this might have been kind of obvious to some people, but I think a lot of people get hung up on like the tactical thing, like the EOTech with the riser and the flip to center magnifier, like super high speed, super fun stuff. And like, obviously I got a bunch of it. Like, where am I? There we are. I have a ton of EOTechs, just holographic sights. I love them. They're super precise dot. And at 100 yards with that 5X magnifier, I have this one zeroed. I know I forgot already. Someone's going to comment, well, 0 to 50 yards and you have a 5,200 yard zero. Well, this is a 5,200 yard zero. And I was attempting to shoot out to 500 yards with this setup that is zeroed at 50 to 200 yards. And again, I was still holding so high. I mean, it just wasn't happening. So you can zero at different distances. There's different applications for that. I mean, I know some guys might say, I don't know what a 25 yard zero would get you, or if you zero at 200, 50 to 200 yards, I think is a pretty good basis, because most of this stuff is going to be up close and personal. Obviously, you want to know your holdovers and whatnot, but all my LPVOs are zeroed at 100 yards because a lot of those trees are, they can be used for whatever zero you want. They're just different mil ratings, or mil measurements rather, but I tend to zero my stuff at 100 yards for those LPVOs. But that's going to be it for the video today, guys. If you want to support the channel, you can head on over to brownells.com using the link in the description. Also, Battlehawk Armory is down there as well. They're a sponsor of the channel. I don't get any discount code for you guys for that one, but if you do use the link in the description, I get credit for those sales. But Brownells is the big one, RDB10 over there at brownells.com. We have a couple different discount codes for like Samson Manufacturing in the description below, and Maple Leaf Firearms. I don't get any kickbacks for those. However, I do for Brownells and for Battlehawk Armory. Again, If you guys want to leave a super thanks, I would super appreciate it. I'm thinking about doing a live video here soon, so maybe that'll entice more people to come on and do that super thanks. I don't know how that works with the chats and stuff. It's going to be a big learning curve for me, but I want to engage with you guys more, answer questions that you guys have, specific questions and whatnot. So hopefully here in the near future, we can do some type of live video. But besides that, eat good, eat clean, drink a lot of water, do some cardio. Christ is King. I love you guys. And I appreciate you guys staying to the end of the video and supporting me through this whole journey. It's been amazing. And I wouldn't rather do it with anybody else. Thank you guys. All right. Talk to you later.